Sue, I'm Anka. I would like to know, do you remember or do you know how BBC arrived at the need for having those benchmarks? Because we in Romania do not have such a thing. And also, some of the Romanian newsrooms agreed to cooperate with the Center for Independent Journalists here and employ journalists of Roma descent. But the fact of the matter is that employing Roma people does not solve the issue of addressing diversity, because not they are taking the decisions. So how do you actually make the translation? From your presentation, it looks like, okay, we will have a lot of diversity represented in our staff, and that will translate into the way we present the news. But this is not happening in Romania. So the first thing, how did you arrive to first set your benchmarks? Who decided and how?
Well, it got a big push when somebody called Greg Dyke was appointed Director General of the BBC, and he spoke in a radio interview in 2000 on the BBC, actually, in BBC Scotland, and described the organisation as hideously white. And it was completely true, and he was new to the organisation, he lived in London, and he saw that it did not reflect and represent the population that it was serving in London at least. And a lot of research was carried out to show, as Joy mentioned earlier, that the minority ethnic populations were the ones who were most disengaged from the BBC, had turned to cable and satellite services. As we are funded by a universal licence fee, everybody should expect something from the BBC in terms of representation and services for them. And quite clearly people were voting with their wallets and were not watching the BBC, and they were paying subscriptions for other channels in order to see their experiences and things reflected back to them. So our research was one thing. It's a business case for the BBC as well as a creative case because of the licence fee. So initially it was the business case that was pushed most hard, the fact that we will become increasingly irrelevant if people keep switching off and not watching us. So it's about self-interest, it's about appealing to the self-interest of the people that work in the BBC. And then more recently, the creative aspects of diversity, the different perspectives, and I'm not just talking about ethnicity here. I mean, recent portrayal monitoring research shows that still men outnumber women on screen 2 to 1 on across UK broadcasting, not just on the BBC. This is a big issue. We're missing out on loads of talent, loads of interesting stories, and it's something that we can't afford to do. So research which showed that we were missing large sections of our audience, and tying it to the economic situation and then the creative situation. We win awards constantly, often for stories, for programs that reflect diversity. For example, we recently won a Mental Health in the Media Award for the portrayal in EastEnders, which is our soap, one of our soaps, which goes out 4 nights a week, of one of the big characters in that soap developing bipolar disorder and what happened to her. And because it was so well done, we won an award for that. So people go, oh, maybe if I do something that's coming from a different aspect, I'm going to win an award. And they love winning awards. So there's lots of different things that you can use to encourage people. First it was the economic case, and more recently it's the creative case. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
You don't look sure.
No, the second part, how do you make sure that representation translates into actual coverage?
Well, it kind of happens organically to some extent, but the reason that we have the senior management target is precisely for that reason. We've just recently appointed a black man called Pat Young to be head of BBC Vision in-house productions. That's the largest in-house production facility in the world. So he's a senior manager, and he is already making a difference, because he is like, absolutely, you know, we're going to do this, this and this. And when you have people in senior positions pushing those agendas, things happen because the BBC is a very hierarchical organisation and everybody wants to be in with the boss. So you have to tackle it from all angles, entry level upwards and senior management level down. And also role models are very important. I mean, just thinking about the presentation earlier, I mean, how many people in this room know that Wayne Rooney is from a gypsy background? Did anybody know that? Wayne Rooney, the England footballer, who's going to just kill you all at the World Cup, I hope. And Eric Cantona, before that, is also of Roma origin. So I think, you know, role models and that are also very important.
Well, thanks, Sue.